Hey everybody, Facebook Live, Dr. Rob here. How you guys doing today? Really excited about this topic. My wife picked this topic, how to improve your mood. So it's really interesting, she had said, she's answering a lot of emails that you guys are sending in. A lot of people are asking, they see that we talk about a gut to brain connection. And, there's a direct connection. Not only is there a connection gut to brain and a connection brain to gut, I want to coin a little phrase for you. It's an interaction. It's going back and forth all the time, and that's why you see these arrows up and down. So a few of you had said, well, if I have an unsettled gut, is this going to adversely affect my mood? And the truth of the matter is, yes. There's a lot of data that really speaks to the gut being leaky and having some dysbiosis of bacteria, leading towards adversely affecting your mood. Actually, there was a great article that talked about the #1 reason for anxiety and depression is your gut permeability. So when we go like this, when I was in like 3rd grade, we would always say everybody's crazy like that. We really should go like this, because this is affecting this. Another great article that talked about people that have irritable bowel syndrome, real issue, inflammatory issue in the gut region. And not only did IBS affect the intestinal tract, it also affected different areas like the brain and a true change in mood. So what's in your gut, the takeaway is, doesn't stay in your gut. It adversely affects your anxiety levels and your depression levels. So with that being said, we want to have a happy gut going to a happy brain versus an unhappy brain or an unhappy gut and going towards each other. So what do? Well, we could start from the bottom up and the top down, but I said it was an interaction. So what is causing this interaction, or what is the communicator, or if you will, the walkie-talkie to allow the gut and the brain to interact? The vagus nerve. So many articles. John has got a plethora of articles that I keep sending him. He goes, enough with the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve actually attaches to the medulla oblongata. It's the back of the skull over here, and it goes all the way down to the transverse colon, not affecting your adrenal cortex. The vagus nerve is a parasympathetic nerve. So what do I mean by that? A parasympathetic nerve has a calming effect. A sympathetic nerve is kind of like flight or flight. When I scare you, go, ah, that's sympathetic. Parasympathetic is chill out, calm down, kind of like most people feel when they drink like a little wine at night. So the vagus nerve, which is cranial nerve 10, a parasympathetic nerve, it's called the great wanderer from its Latin derivative. So it wanders once again from the top of the back of the head all the way through the gut. Its properties, if it's working correctly, is really truly anti-inflammatory. So it has a lot of anti-inflammatory properties. When the vagus nerve is shut down, you get increased inflammation and the like. And we're going to go into more detail on that. But the gut to the brain and the brain to the gut. So if your gut is permeable, it poses an issue. What things make your gut permeable? We've gone through this before. Gluten. Gluten means glue. Wheat, one form of wheat is gluten. So all the wheat in America poses a major issue. We all know that it's sprayed with glyphosate, a Roundup. It's an ingredient in Roundup the World Health Organization has called carcinogenic. Stress, antibiotics, my goodness, so many antibiotics, non-steroid anti-inflammatories like Aleve, Advil, ibuprofen, and the like, all damage the gut lining. Lack of fiber. Lack of fiber causes a problem in the gut lining. Even if you have good bacteria, if you don't feed it fiber, the good bacteria will turn around and start eating your gut lining. That poses an issue. Your gut, 70% of your immune cells are in your gut. It also has a factor of absorbing your macronutrients, your foods, and your micronutrients, your vitamins and minerals. So you really want to keep you want to keep your gut intact. You want to keep your gut semi-permeable and not permeable, because remember, when the gut becomes permeable, things come out in the bloodstream and go systemically, and they also go to the brain. So that's one way. The brain has that interaction, once again, going down. So the interesting thing about the brain, if the brain barrier becomes permeable, it goes into cerebral spinal fluid. That's the fluid in the spinal cord, so it gets a little more heady there. Interestingly enough, the material of the blood-brain barrier is very, very similar to the material or the membrane that also is considered the gut. So the gut membrane and the brain membrane are made out of the same proteins. So for me, when patients come in, as an FYI, I do a lot of blood testing. So I use the Syrax test. The Syrax test told me about the gut permeability, different tests there, something just as an FYI, lipopolysaccharide and antibodies if we have autoimmunity. And don't worry, John, I'm not going off on a tangent. I'm going to come back to the patient. I'm not going to go to the doctor. Also talking about tight junctions, actomyosin, and then we're also going to talk about autoimmunity at the gut and in the trans and paracellular joints. In addition, there's array 22 that speaks to, it's array 20 that's speaking to the brain and the brain barriers and things of that nature. So we can do that if you happen to need to come in as a patient. But when the brain gets hit, like in a concussion, we talk a lot about concussion now. When the brain gets hit, it takes about 6 hours and brain cells start to die. Those same brain cells speak to the gut. All this, believe it or not, obviously if you get hit, you're going to have a change in your mood. Interestingly enough, with the change in the mood, when you have a concussion, you have 7 to 10 days after concussion with a decrease of blood circulation. That decrease in blood circulation is going to change your mood. You also change from aerobic to anaerobic. You're burning glucose and you're not able to handle your glucose. You're going to get tired. You're going to get a change in the mood. So concussion and damage to the brain is going to lead you down a path where you're also going to have a mood change. A lot of people don't realize that other issues with anxiety and depression, once again, really come from the gut and not from the brain. Parkinson's, direct correlation in Parkinson's coming from gut issues. Basically, they looked at people who have Parkinson's and found out they had a lot of dysbiosis and unleveling of bacteria. In addition, Alzheimer's, sugar. So that was one thing that I missed before. I should have mentioned to everybody. Sugar poses a major, major issue for gut health. Sugar is a toxin. We've talked about that a lot. In addition to Alzheimer's, just as an FYI, if you hit your head, you get a concussion, and you have the gene for Alzheimer's, which is APOE gene. After a concussion, those who have that gene have an 80% chance of getting Alzheimer's. So everybody's got to take care of their brain and take care of their gut. So let's bring it all back to your mood. People come in and they say, I'm just not feeling well. I can't digest. My mood is bad. Well, it's all about your gut. So if you guys really want to improve your mood, you want to improve your overall health, you want to improve your energy level, start at the basic core, if you will. Start at your gut level and understand that whatever's in your gut goes through your body. But again, your gut to your brain will enable you to have this interaction and you can change your mood. So got any questions on that?
One question with the gut, when you're eating stuff and you feel your stomach gets upset afterwards, but no one really tracks what they're eating, what's a good baseline to see what food agrees with you and what doesn't?
It's a great question. First of all, if you have some problem digesting or you have some, my stomach's not right. I heard that I was in Minnesota this weekend and someone said, my stomach's not right. That immediately says that you have a digestion problem. So if your gut's on fire, your brain's on fire. So there's going to be a mood change there. Gut on fire means brain on fire. So if you want to find out is you take away some of the foods, you do what we call an elimination diet. You take out foods that are very high in allergy and high in known to have an upset stomach. And then after you feel better or go through a program, a gut program, restoration program, you then reintroduce one food every 3 days until you find out either one, that you fix the issue, or number two, which food produced all the symptomology.
Gotcha. Now, for something like that, do you have any material on what those foods look like?
Absolutely, and you are going to post them because you're asking that and you led me down that road, and I do appreciate you. Thank you for the softball. So we will be putting up a list of foods. I will put up a gluten-free food list today. We'll do that. We'll post that. You were able to handle that, John?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah. People with similar issues, do you ever recommend any antacid digestive enzymes, or are those just masking a greater issue? That's
a great question. The antacids and such, I do not recommend. Protein pump inhibitors, they do not work. So I would strongly recommend never taking any of those digestive enzymes. That would be phase 2 of my 6R program, where you have digestive enzymes. Digestive enzymes usually pertain to betaine, HCl. You need some stomach enzymes and lipase, protease, and enzymes like that, which are more pancreatic enzymes that we like to add in. Digestion is a key component. Probably 80 to 90% of my patients come in with a digestion problem. Most Americans have a digestion problem, and we assume it to be normal, and it's not. Just remember, a big takeaway here is, or if you will, a value bomb is if your gut is upset, you've got some permeability, and if your gut once again is on fire, your brain's on fire, and it will adversely affect your mood.
All right. How can people find you?
You guys can find me. Do me a favor. Share this with everybody. People need to know about gut health. You know, I really appreciate our presence is growing. I appreciate our messages out there. We want to help people. I appreciate you helping me help people and you helping people. Share the information. Punch share. Punch like. Let everybody know what we're talking about. You guys can find me at 311 North Street, White Plains, New York, 10605, Suite G1. You guys got my Facebook, Dr. Rob, always yours in health.